And we back, y'all, for another week of For the Culture. We got my dog TJ Legacy, man.
How y'all doing? What's going on, family?
I'm Fat Fool.
Kimani Sherez, how y'all doing today?
And we got a good interview, man. We got a guy here, man, who's going to talk about, you know, things going on, and not as well in Orlando, but in most urban cities, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we're all about, you know. We're going to start off about, you know, where you from, man?
Well, I'm originally from Boston. I moved down here in 2002, and I've been here ever since. You know, I just kind of stayed in Florida. Florida and Orlando has basically been, you know, I'm Boston bred, but Orlando raised me, definitely.
It's cold in Boston. I don't blame you for being here, man.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the whole reason why I moved. My mother wanted to get away from the cold, and I was like, look, it's a football state, so I wanted to come down here, play football. Everybody had them athletic dreams back in the day, you know?
I hear that, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most
How old
definitely.
were you when you moved down here?
I was a sophomore in high school. I was a
Okay.
sophomore in high school. Yeah, I'm 31 now, so.
Okay, so you've been, you've been here
Yeah, I've been here a good minute.
in
Yeah.
them southern sticks.
Yeah, but I still got that up north flavor. Don't forget that. Yeah.
So, in the city, what part of town? Are you on the east side, the west side part of town?
I'm by the Citrus Bowl. I'm on the west. I'm
On the west side, on
yeah.
the west
Okay.
side.
Yeah.
So, I guess, what we here to interview about today is the race that you had you put together the debate for the District 5 race,
Yes.
the Paramore District race, right?
Yes, it was.
And was it debate? Who was that between?
District 5 race. It was with Commissioner Regina Hill. She was
Okay.
the incumbent. She actually won the race. Erica Dunlap, Sarah Eldadri, Jabril Ali,
Okay.
Cynthia Harris, Andrina James, and I hope I'm not forgetting, and Jabril Ali.
Oh, yeah,
Jabril
yeah.
Ali, yeah. So yeah, it was
That's
myself
not
and basically a coalition of organizations and community leaders that put together that. But you know, I was happy to spearhead that and lead it for the people in the community.
That's TJ
I would
Legacy.
say,
What you do?
Yeah.
You know, just a little bit more into that, like, a little bit more details, like, what, basically the debate, why was it put together? Like, what was the goal?
Well, usually politics, black politics here in Central Florida, or really in general in politics, our issues aren't on the forefront. And so you have a predominantly African-American district. And so, and this race had so many polarizing figures and people that are, you know, it was a hot race for the time, for the 2017 election cycle. So the mainstream media, I don't feel like was covering it the way they needed to do to engage folks, to get them out to vote. So I decided to team up with these organizations and put together this debate so that we can spread awareness, so that we can get people to go to the polls and be engaged. So it's not about telling people who to vote for, it's about giving people a choice. And people really, there were so many issues that District 5 were facing at that time, you know, with gentrification, jobs, and you know, all the things that are going on within the city, that we needed to make sure that it was on the main stage so people can make an educated decision.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely,
like.
absolutely.
As a young voter, I'm not gonna lie. I just got my rights to vote again. But
Okay,
I
congrats,
vote,
man.
And I feel like it's a lost cause a lot of times, because the ballots are always, you know, sometimes it gets shaky. And before I moved to Florida, I knew about Jeb Bush, so I figured everybody did that. I feel like George Bush stole it in Florida. So voting in Florida is dead for me.
Yeah.
And is that true? You know, because I know at the last election there was some janky stuff going on, man. Can you
I'm gonna
elaborate?
say something to you as a Floridian.
Okay.
So I did vote,
Uh-huh.
you know, when I turned 18, of course, for Obama and
Okay.
all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Went to the inaugural and everything. But I will say, this past election, I did not vote.
You didn't vote at
I
all?
didn't,
In the Hillary Trump
and-
election.
Yeah.
Mm.
But even
Vote for Hillary,
I
man.
learned a lot of different things, and I'm a person that like really be reading up into stuff and really getting into it. And I was just like, I just don't see. At the time, I didn't see a need.
Well, I always say it's the
You know
it's
what I'm
the it's the elected officials' responsibility to make sure that whatever issues, it's your responsibility to be engaged in the process, but it's also the elected officials' responsibility to engage the community and say, hey, these are the issues that best speak to you and why you should be concerned or why you should vote. I don't think people should vote out of fear. You need to find a singular issue
You do have to find
be
the
engaged,
issue.
because you really can't play a game if you're on the sideline. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's almost like you know, LeBron James and Steph Curry, you yelling and screaming about what they're doing and they double dribbling or traveling, whatever. You're just a spectator. So politics is the same way. You voting, that's your ticket to say, that accountability word you were talking about. That's your word to say, hey, I may not have voted for you, but I am an engaged voter, so you're going to listen to what I have to say because I have power and my influence of all the people that are around me in my community that can mobilize and vote you out.
Pretty much putting it on paper.
I still can't believe she ain't vote Democrat. Next episode, we're going to ask Sherez why she didn't vote for Hillary.
Because I know about Hillary, the Clinton.
No, we will have to get it deep in there. We got to get it deep with
that. I go all the way back to learn about Jewish.
What I want to know is
their names.
What we want to know is
Okay.
what was the controversy with the ballots with the last election?
Well, I think in Orlando, and I've said this publicly, and especially in African American communities, the predominantly African American, not just here in Orlando, Central Florida, but throughout the country, we have this issue with absentee ballot fraud. You know, when you have your ballot, they mail you your ballot. You're supposed to check off who you want to vote for and send it back into the supervisor elections office. However, we have these things called ballot brokers or harvesters, where they knock on the door. These people usually target elderly people who are disabled, and they'll go in and say, "Oh,
so they're not going to On Center. They're not going to
they're going to these people's houses, and they're just saying, hey, did you get your ballot? I wanted to come and get your ballot." Some people are taking their ballots, throwing the ballots away, allegedly. Some of them are filling people's ballots out, and so it's a lot of controversy. So what that does is voter suppression. All right, and then you're suppressing the vote. So all the people who fought for our right to vote, you're basically slapping them in the face and spitting on their legacy when you do things like that. So that's always been an issue within districts here. I've been very vocal about it. We need to educate the people in the community to make sure that we're telling them not to give their ballots away.
Speaking of controversy, man, I hear that Jabril Ali has said something about how Regina Hill, who won the election, Commissioner Regina Hill, we are going to give you a shout out. We're no haters. But, he has said something about she was using her dead son as a crutch, I don't know if you were familiar with that.
Well, I don't think she has a dead son. I think she has her daughter is no longer with us, and I think that's extremely tough. Yeah, that's extremely tough for any parent. Yeah.
Of course.
So I'm not familiar with any disparaging comments from Jabril, but I did hear grumblings that people just want to make sure that if commissioner or anybody who is still grieving over the loss of their child, that it's not, although our thoughts and our prayers are with them, that we make sure that the decisions that they're making are they're putting the community's best foot forward.
I thought she may have tried to manipulate that as a way of winning. And
well, some people feel that. I don't think I would go that far, because if somebody, because I don't think that somebody would, if someone who would purposely use their child or even their children, whether they're dead or alive, to manipulate voters, that's somebody that's really extremely low. So I still believe in the process that somebody wouldn't do that, but I have heard things of people who do feel that way. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. It doesn't mean that it's true.
She sent low blows back. But
she does clap back.
You have to tend to that. We're not going to sit here and manipulate on that and minimize it. But we just want to know, in order for we voted for Brother Jabril Ali, and we felt like he was the best candidate. Why? Because he comes from a family of that, and he lives there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so what do you think his campaign needs to do next year in order to win that? Not next year, but next election.
Well, first of all, he has to decide whether or not he's actually going to run. And
we need you to run, man.
Well, I think when it comes to Jabril and his race, he had a family lineage and people that he was like the homegrown boy, the homegrown kid who's finally here to kind of right the ship or right the wrongs of what has been going on in past yesteryears. I think that there was a bit of a backlash because in our community, the things that he represented as far as family values and trying to say, hey, this is the way it used to be, and I want to make sure that we could raise our kids here. So that necessarily doesn't resonate with our community as much as it should.
Well, I mean, you gotta look at it too.
Mhm.
I mean, it is African American, but in Florida in general, it's very diverse African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, well, not even African Americans, it's very
Yeah.
diverse black people in that area. So you're not just talking to just African Americans. You're talking
Yeah.
to people from the islands. You're talking to
Yeah.
people from Africa.
Well,
So, I mean, I guess it's a lot of versatility, a lot of different
Mhm.
cultures, and just...
Yeah, well, the reason I keep saying African American is, it's a predominantly African American district. But I think in Jabril's, I did see growth from during the campaign with him as a candidate. But when there's so many people in a race, the votes get kind of, chopped up, and sometimes, it wasn't from third place, third, fourth, and fifth, and or second. It wasn't that far off. So I think it's most politicians lose their first race.
Yeah.
No one's the Floyd Mayweather of election. Some people lose, but every politician will eventually lose a race. They will, it will happen. I haven't seen a politician that has just gone undefeated. Even Barack Obama has lost a race. So it's a good opportunity for him, if this is something that he wants to do and wants to continue to do, that he will kind of retool some things, repackage some things, and then grow from it, and then move forward and find out ways he can best serve the community. But I don't think Jabril's work is done in the community, and so he's someone I'm a close confidant of mine. But I wish him the best of luck in his political career. But I think he's far more talented where he could do other things just besides being in the box of just politics.
I got a curveball here.
Okay.
How do you feel about how politics plays with hip hop?
Oh man, that's a good question. Politics and hip hop. I think politics does influence the way, or hip hop is the vehicle in which we express ourselves in our community as what's going on. You look back at Run DMC, where you go back to Public Enemy with Fight the Power. Hip hop has always been that vehicle, that tool that the youth, the generation that we express ourselves as. NWA, it's that anti-movement. Look at Tupac and how he was, and how they said all this gangster rap music and these type of stomping on his records and saying all sorts of sanctions that they wanted to use on him. But hip hop is extremely important, and it does have a cross product with politics because hip hop is unapologetic, and sometimes politics can get so like I said, in that box, really tight knit.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, this is very random off the top of my mind, but
freestyle.
How come you don't see a lot of politicians really embrace what hip hop is doing? Because if you look at it historically, music and hip hop has really told what the real was going on, and then even on political standpoint, the intelligent way, the crazy way, and you see politicians.
I think they do. Politicians engage hip hop, but they do it in a way that's pandering.
Yeah.
They don't do it in a genuine way. And I'm talking about the masses. Like, whenever they need some votes, or they need an endorsement or whatever. Like, for instance, Hillary Clinton did the concert. She brought Jay-Z up there, and
we saw that. Hillary.
We see a lot of pandering, and so, but we need to, and politicians need to understand is that
with Obama. He kind of celebrated.
Black folk, we are more politically astute than people give us credit for. And so we don't need to be pandered to, we need to be talked to like adults. And I think sometimes they don't know because they want to be so cookie cutter, and so they want to be politically correct. And hip hop is not politically correct. They're supposed to tell you, hey, you're fucking up. You see what I'm saying? And this is what's going on in our community. But you see rappers like Killer Mike, who's down in Atlanta, who was campaigning for the new mayor, who's the black woman who's actually a Fannie Rattler. Her name escapes you right now, but she just became mayor. So you have a lot of people in hip hop who have influence.
Oh yeah,
and he's a conscious brother, man.
Yeah,
so,
I was listening to a song like, God, dog.
That's right. And I'm good with any brother who's in the Big Brother tribe that's trying out here to bring some conscious stuff. So.
Yeah, that man. So what you got going on in the future, TJ?
Man. So with me, I have basically Soapbox Sundays that's happening on Legacy Facebook Live, my Facebook, TJ Legacy.
Facebook Live.
So that's at 7 p.m. usually on Sundays. We're going to come back in 2018. Shout out to Jay Wise, who's my producer, who's helping me out with that. He's the
Jay Wise out of Atlanta? Or?
No, out of Orlando.
Okay.
Jay Wise, yeah, he's the I call him the Puffy to my Biggie. You know, he's the one that is the producer behind the scenes and whatever, making sure that the show runs smooth. And you know, we're just gonna continue to grow, kind of like what you guys are doing, making sure that black media is popping off. And we have on the founder of Orange County Black Voice. So we're gonna do a Black Panther movie night screening. The movie,
that's
The
what's
Marvel
up.
Black Panther. And so what we're asking everybody to do is to come out. We're still working on the details as far as whether or not we're giving tickets away, if people got to purchase tickets. So we're still working on those details. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Where would I go to get the news for that?
Well, you can go to my Facebook, which is t.j.legacy, or you can go to Orange County Black Voice on Facebook as well. And we're asking everybody to dress in your African traditional dashiki, whether it's your civil rights, whatever.
Okay.
Basically, for the culture, we want everybody to show black excellence that day, and you know, black in your pride. You know, so it's important for little kids and the families, for people to see black superheroes, to say that, wow, you can do it. So it's something that is important for to expand the mind. So I don't.
All my black animes.
Yes,
love
exactly.
you.
So we need to make sure that we get that popping off, and really just staying politically engaged and making sure that we hold people accountable and call out bullshit when we see it, and also uplift things that are good for our community and good for our people, good for the culture, man.